I've taken apart cash registers numerous times, and I always end up with these drawers. And I always wondered, can you make something out of that? So I started dismantling one of them, and I thought I'd make something that Yvonne would really like. This is just a drawer, but if it's hanging on the wall, now it's a little knick-knack drawer. So most of the time, all you've got to do is just start unscrewing things. That'll remove the spring. You got these plates. Sometimes you might want to keep that. The one thing I do think that, and I took it off the other one, I would like to remove are these for holding down the dollars, which they just squeeze together and come right out. So now, hanging on the wall, it looks like that. Same thing with this one. This one actually has a little metal cash box, I guess, where you would have kept money overnight. And there you go. So now we have 3 little cubby boxes.
So with Chris working on his stash of cash register drawers, you know what? I thought I'm going to get underneath my workbench. I'm going to pull this box of crate drawers, whatever's in here, and I am going to crate with them. They've been there so long. Look at how much dust there is. So it is time to get them out. If he's motivated, heck yeah, spring cleaning, I'm motivated. So yes, why do we do that to ourselves? Why do we come home from a sale, or we buy something, and then we stuff it? I'm going to do that someday. I'm going to do something with that. And then the next thing you know, it's a dust collector, and it's been there longer than it should. So with Chris doing his cash registers, I'm like, that is a great idea for cubbies. Yes, they have sold, but they're slow sell as just a cash register door for like littles. I love the idea that he created. I'm just sitting there at an auction, the Tuesday night auction in Bresson, and I get this message from him, and I'm like, oh my gosh, how stinking cute is that idea? Loved it. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to get into my stash and see what I can create. Probably not as cute as his as with character, but going to at least get this box done. Okay, so there's this, which we already all know what it is, but it is dirty, brought it home. I think actually we did have it in the booth one time, but it just sat yellow. It doesn't have any Coke, Pepsi, Squirt, any of those on there. Maybe it's the yellow, maybe it's not. But sometimes it's about how you display it. So some way here, okay, if it's long way, it is solid wood. I don't know if you can tell that. Sideways, it is not solid all the way back, so it makes it hard to do trinkets. But this way, you could definitely do collections in it. It's a messy job, but somebody's got to do it. Since this has already been painted, actually, if I look in the inside, this says Coca-Cola in the inside. I don't know. So I only just did the air compressor because we would have washed this off as soon as we would have washed this off as soon as we brought it home anyway. It just collected shop dust. So I'm going to do in the pickle, we're going to do some chippy paint to go with the yellow. I'm not going to do the inside. I'm going to leave that as is, but I am going to do some chippiness, some layered. If I like the in a pickle, I will stop with the in a pickle. If not, I can add another cup color on top of it. It's already an old salvaged piece, so we're just going to keep it with that. But Like I said, I know that I had this in the booth and it never sold. So it probably came home because I don't know, I thought it would be cute. But not everybody's vision of putting decor in it. I mean, I saw one time where somebody put like their shiny bright ornaments in it. I don't know how they did that. They got little hooks. I don't even know how you got in there for the little hooks to hang them, but anyway, that's not what I'm going to do. So I'm using In the Pickle by Sweet Pickins, which is a powder paint, milk paint. You mix it up with equal parts water, and then you just stir it for about 2 minutes, making sure everything's incorporated. And then you do need to let it sit off to the side a little bit so it will thicken up. Okay, as I said, I want this to be chippy, so I'm going to use some of the Sweet Pickins beeswax, which is nice and gooey. So I'm just going to rub it. I'm not going to paint the metal. I'm going to try to keep it off the metal, but I am going to put that on the yellow. Okay, the consistency has thickened up. And the pickle is it's a nice Kelly green. We're not looking for a pristine paint job, so I don't have to worry about, like, if I don't get it on pieces and parts, I have to worry about it. I'm just repainting what was already painted the yellow, which was probably not the original. I don't think. I mean, because like I said, the Coca-Cola has, in the inside, maybe faded off. Did they have yellow? I don't know. I don't need to get up close and personal with the hardware. I just need to kind of get it close to it. So I need to just sit this off to the side. If I don't see any crackling or chippiness because the wood was so dry, I will go in with a coat of shellac, but I'm going to let this dry first to see what it does. As I said, because the wood is dry and old, it might just soak the paint right in. I did take a little detail brush to those little bitty edges so that the green paint was everywhere. Okay, so it is not, see, it just soaked right into that wood. We're not getting the chippiness that I'm looking for. So I'm going to go in with some shellac and spray it. That is going to absorb into the wood. And even though I already have like the one coat on, somehow the chippiness will chip down to that layer, the bottom layer, I hope. Okay, I'm going to go in and I'm just going to rub a little bit more of the wax on. Yeah, you don't want to hit this with a heat gun because you're just going to melt the wax. And that's not what we want. We don't want to do that. And In the Pickle, as you see, is a nice, very bright color. But depending on how we finish it off with waxes or hemp oil or whatever your choice is to finish off your, that's what changes the color. You can definitely just clear coat it if you like the bright color. And just because I'm painting green doesn't mean you have to paint green. You paint whatever color you want. You find an object similar, if I have inspired you, and paint whatever color you want. Oh my goodness, look at that. It worked. I told you. There's something about that shellac. Now I just have to touch on the subject because I threw out, people sharing how else to get chippiness. Yes, there's the hairspray. Yes, there's the Elmer's glue. And there is the crackle medium. Now I have tried them all. I've tried them all. And I have just found out that this technique sells well for me. I can almost tweak it, guarantee it. I mean, none of them are 100% the way that you want them, but I just like the realistic look that I get from this. So you just find a crackle medium if you're looking for a crackle that works for you. And I like the shellac with the milk paint, and that's what works for me. Yes, Sweet Pickins has a medium crackle, Elmer's glue, hairspray, You can, hairspray is probably the closest to shellac actually. I bet you that is, in my mind, is probably, as an ex-hairdresser, retired hairdresser, is probably the closest to there. So there's that. So go out and buy some Aquanet. Can you still get Aquanet? I don't know. Okay. Okay, I don't chip anything off. I like to seal my paint in, seal some of that aging crackle in there. And I'm just going to use weather defense because I want to actually do these little areas too. And then I know when I start to get to darker paint, I got to be careful because some of them like to make it chalky, and I don't want that to happen. And I don't ever have that with weather defense. Okay, now it's time to see what we have underneath and what it looks like. Okay, now I'm going to start adding some of the patina on, which is Aging Wax by Fusion, and a little Jolie's black wax, and we'll see what it looks like. I don't think it needs, I thought about doing another color, but I don't think it does. But see how that will get right in there, because we sealed it in, and it's just going to give it some nice age. So I don't want to put a hanger like that you can see. Like I don't want to put one side to side. So I'm going to do 2 in the middle. Hopefully, I'm hoping it's not going to go through. Nope, it didn't go through. It didn't go through. And then a little bit of wire, and that'll make it easy to hang. So then there was 2 of these boards in here. And I'm sure my intent was to make signs out of them. And then I just stuffed them in there, and then I walked away and forgot about them. I make these 2 into signs, but this way. So the inserted. So like not this way. We want to give them a frame. So the sign's going to be, and they're 2 different sizes. I think I am going to scuff sand because it feels like it's really a shiny, smooth surface. I want my paint to stick. This feels pretty good. So now you can definitely tell a difference. So we got some rounded edges, not some straight edges, even going in and rounding this, just to give it like an old, like worn and weathered sign. So I'll have to do that to this one now. Okay, so this is way too new looking of wood. That would not have been, that would have weathered differently. So I have some Waverly antiquing wax concoction. So which is 2 parts, however much you want to put in, antiquing wax, which is brownish red. But then I don't like the red as much, and so I add 1/4 of that with Waverly ink chalk paint. That's why it looks like it's black. And it really gives you that real weathered gray look. If I had more antiquing wax, I'd make up a new bit mixture for you all to show you, but I need to apparently place an order. I used it on a project lately, so I don't have as much, so I'd have to wait till I go to Walmart. So as you see, the black ink paint, the black ink chalk paint, gives it that much different of a look. So that's what I'm just trying to fill in that wood. It's not, it might be like a maple, which, oh, hello. Maple's a little bit stronger of a wood. It's not cheap pine, that's for sure. So it's not soaking in as much as I wanted it to. So I'm going to see if I tried it on this board, just use it. Like I told you, I don't hardly have any left. I did do a little bit of the antiquing wax that I have left. And then I'm just going to go ahead and rub it in there because I was just looking for it to be a little bit darker. That's actually not bad. It's amazing from what it started looking like to what a layer of, I don't know. We'll see what I end up doing with it, but I know I need to seal it in with some shellac to get the look that I'm looking for, that it's not going to just like, because as we saw, the watered down mixture didn't want to stick in here because of whatever wood it is. So I just want to make sure my paint is going to stick. Okay, for my signs, I'm going to stick with my classic white of a flour sack. And I'm looking for some chippiness, some crazing, whatever I can get to make it look like an old sign. Okay, time to start painting. I'm not really looking, I don't know, like, should I put some, maybe I will. Like, maybe around the edges, I will do a little bit of the beeswax, not in here when I'm going to put wording and signage, especially since that's so, but I think I'm just going to, okay, we're going to start painting. And the nice thing about the shellac is that helps attract the paint. Not only does it seal that wax and water down concoction in, it helps grab onto this paint. And I'm going to paint it all white. I'm not making the frame be another color or anything like that. I want the wording and hopefully some crackling and crazing to be the detail, not a frame. Because I have milk paint, or because I have beeswax on it, some of it may get onto the front board. It's okay, like that part of it, and the inside. Okay, gonna go on to coat number 2. Oh, look at that. That's nice, real nice. So the wax, chippy. I didn't do any wax in here unless it got on the brush for the signage. So we're going to seal this in before putting my stencil on. Okay, so for my signs, I went in and made 2. I wanted to find a swan, but apparently Cricut does not have a swan. They only have birds. So I did the swallow's nest, bed and breakfast, and the miniatures. Now you're probably wondering how I did that. There's actually a warp feature. Like, see, it can change it and stuff. So that's how I made that one individual that individual sentence be like that. Same with this one. So just some basic fonts, going in and finding a bird, and apparently there's not a 25-cent sign, so I had to go and find a sign. So just 2 little simple, unique, one-of-a-kind signages. Time to do some weeding. And then if you know me, just for like making the sign fit, I just always try to cut it off as close to the wording as I can, just so I can center it. And then we'll go ahead and put it on some transfer tape. Okay, take our vinyl off. Just eyeball because of the square. And rub on that vinyl. Or I probably should have conditioned my vinyl, but I didn't. Meaning put it on something to get it dusty so it releases a little bit better. And then because I cut so close to the vinyl so I can center it, or attempt to, I'm going to go ahead and put some tape down so I don't touch my edges. And I am circling that little cutout of the square because I didn't hide it. Because sometimes that actually just enough line that it goes in and makes that square when you go in with some IOD's black ink and a sponge dabber from the Dollar Tree store. And I think that's how I'm going to do my lettering. We want it to look old, so sometimes it's a bonus. Okay, my ink's dry now, so I'm going to go in and start sanding. Some waxes to get into all those, though they're already gorgeous, those little crackles. So aging wax first. Because of course when you sand it, you take some of that top coat off. And then we'll take some clear. And then go in. So you can see a difference when it comes to the waxes, how it just makes that detail pop a little bit more. And it makes more sense why I spent all that time to stain the board underneath. I'll finish up by putting some hardware on. There should be enough of an edge that I won't go through. This has nothing to do with any of this old stuff. This is just a Hobby Lobby. It's been a while since I found one of these. And it actually doesn't show the dust for some reason, but I know I've had this longer because it had a little boo-boo because it's MDF board. But y'all, I ran across a booth in an antique mall who's supposed to be just antiques. I don't know. It's vintage antiques, secondhand, y'all. And I saw a Hobby Lobby arch that I did. You know your own work. I've been doing this long enough. I'm going to see my stuff here or there. I'm going to see my stuff donated to Goodwill because we are women. We are people who constantly are changing out our decor because that's what we love to do. So a compliment for somebody to think that my piece was an antique. Well, yeah, I've only been doing this about 5 years, so it's not even vintage yet. But anyway, what we're going to do with this is we're going to start off by taking, of course, the tags off 2018 is the date. Oh. And then we got some of these little gadgets. Okay, I understand it's the back of the piece, but I'm going to go in and sand where I just took those off, where those little pads were and where that was. So, I mean, I think it's kind of obvious, that piece. I mean, salvage pieces do get broken and stuff, so I just have some IOD air dry clay. Figure out how much I need, because I can say I'll sand it. Okay, I need to glue it on, so I'm just going to use some Star Bond CA glue. A generous amount because it's going to soak into those fibers. And because I have this out, you can actually use your dry clay to fill in holes also. Since I have it out, why not? I'm gonna find, where did the, oh, here. I'm like, where did my spot go? So I'm just gonna go ahead and sand it down. Okay, so I'm gonna take some shellac and make MDF board behave. We've got that, I've got that pretty much where I think I'm happy with it. Is it a perfect match? Probably not. Could I tweak it to death? Probably. I make this all the same color, you know, and I want to not, you know, we're making a reproduction here, folks. I don't want to forget about the back. So we're doing the back first, and the easiest for all these little details is to spray. So I'm going to go ahead with Laurel Green and get the back done first. So the one thing about this Rust-Oleum paint is I wait an hour, and for whatever reason, it takes forever to dry, like a couple days. But I've learned that if I spray it with some weather defense, I'm able to move on. I don't know why it stays so tacky. It's just tacky. And who has 2 days to wait for paint to dry? But spraying it in with a top coat seems to work. Okay, so this is dry enough now that I can flip it. So I kind of do like an hour, you know, letting it dry. But I do want to see some chippiness on this side with all that detail. I don't want to cover up that white paint and wood. So I'm going to do a little bit of beeswax wherever it hits. I have not tried this with the spray paint, so we'll see how that works. See if it gives it that chippy look or not. So this is something you'll notice when you're doing raw. That's why I tried to seal that in with the shellac, but it does not. That raw MDF board, because it's so papery, just kind of soaks in the spray paint. That was another reason of me wanting to do the beeswax, to see what chippiness happens. I'm trying to even remember which guy I patched. I think it was this one I patched, but hey, not too bad. Okay, so first I'm just going to take a rag and see like what comes off from where I put the wax. And I will say, you know, using that top coat definitely helps this piece. So I think there's still enough stickiness from the beeswax. So I'm going to use a little bit of the decrepit dust to give it a little bit more of a patina. So I'm just going to tap it. Then wipe off the excess. So you can see the difference. It's just getting into that detail where it looks a little too clean here. If it was truly a Savage piece, it would definitely have some of this patina. Now I'm taking some Jolie's wax, black wax, because you know I love it. And so I know it's scary, scary. So to me, a patina is not all just one color. So I'm just taking a little fan brush, rubbing it on. So I want to make sure that I seal this all in with some more weather defense. But I like the patina. I love playing with those dust and waxes. I think they're awesome. This was my motivation. I'm like, if he can create this, I think was an old drawer or something, not even, you know, perfectly imperfect MDF board. But I was wondering if I could make some shelves. Why does everything have to be perfect? Paint it up, put some pallet wood shelf in there maybe? Okay, I'm going to go ahead and give this bad boy a little bit of a wash. See what we got going on. I could probably have sprayed it out, but I kind of want to see. So I need to seal this into with some shellac, dry wood, MDF board, to be able to paint it and give it an old-timey look, or it'll just absorb into the really raw wood. I think the back of this, I did spray it with shellac. That'll seal that very porous MDF board in. I like the patina back here. So I'm going to try not to be a messy painter, but in case I am, I'm going to go ahead and tape it off to help prevent too much paint from going. So for my shelf, I'm going with that salvaged barn wood look. So classic red barn. So I'm going to use red wagon, one of my favorite reds. So I always try to find something to raise it up so that the paint isn't pooling underneath. So I just have a board that's smaller, so that helps. Now my paint has thickened up a bit. And I am going to just start off by painting. The whole thing is going to be, my shelves will be a different color, probably some pallet wood, I'm thinking. And I know there's a boo-boo, but it's that perfectly imperfect. It's supposed to look like old salvage pieces. I've actually used this red before, and it does, you know, I'm always looking, I try like one or two pieces in colors and then, you know, see what sells. Because it's all fun and games to do a piece, but if it's collecting dust in your booth and nobody's going to buy it, you know, that's not a lot of fun. So I try to share colors I think, or I have had sell for me. Old barns and like old churches. Just when we traveled to a lot of auctions, y'all, in a lot of rural areas, and I just I'm glad Chris is driving. I'd probably get us into an accident because I'm always looking at those old churches and those old farms. I just love them. the stories they could tell, how they used to build things back in the day, the character that they added, how many animals have been through those barns. Okay, so this is, I'm going to seal this in. I want to do everything I'm going to do to it before putting any shelves in it. I'm going to go in with some Fusion Aging Wax. You have to watch the magic closely, where it gets into all those little cracks, the crazy. Ooh, it's like magic. And then the true red wagon, red barn. I know, I call it. She calls it red wagon. I see it as a barn color, but yes, it really starts to come out. So Chris was so kind to cut me some pieces, but pallet wood, it's really grabby, splintery. So I'm going to go in and give him a sanding. I love that it has the red on it. And I am going just to stain them with some of the aging wax. It's not going to really like make too much of a difference, but it is going to smooth it down. Big difference. Okay, I'm going to see if this works. So I have, you all saw me use this metal on some risers, but I thought it would fix this a little bit. So I'm just going to guesstimate how much I'm going to need. I can't link it because I bought it at an auction from a lady who was a folk art primitive designer. Oh, I'll have to cut a little bit more off because I'm going to have to like form it to this to make that. So unfortunately, I overestimated. He'll have that. Okay. It's just for funsies. Something to distract from the brokenness. So I'm just using some little tacks. Because brad nails will just go right through it.
All right, so Yvonne asked if I would put these shelves in for her. So what I'm trying to do is line them up. You can see these have the little spaces in them, but that would have been like particle board, which would not have looked good. The hard part is trying to line up this nail to not go through the board.
So we did get the hanging system. Make sure that it's nice and tight on there. So that felt really good. I don't even know how long that box has been sitting there. So thank you to Chris for motivating me as he's working on, like he has a little workbench. Well, he has a workbench that is full of to-do projects. I have little stashes of to-do projects. So I thought when he made that little cubby, I'm like, yeah, that box is right where I'm working all the time. I need to get it done. So I hope that you enjoyed today's content. I hope maybe you have one of these pieces, one of these boxes, crates laying in your stash, and I gave you an idea. So thanks for watching. We will see you next time, and you can see what we're up to. Bye.